and the gentlemen of Salty Soul there with their hit song Live and Die in Africa. Welcoming you right back to the Breakfast News Digest with Tolu and Dapo. Lagos, good morning, good morning, good morning again, and welcome to our next conversation. We will be on all the way till 9. At 9 o'clock, you'll get the headline news, and right after that, Tunji Andrews will be in the studio for the Money, Business, and Economy show. But in the meantime, a conversation on youth leadership in Nigeria 2019 and beyond. And we have a gentleman and a lady in the studio with us to share their views on this, of course, in terms of also representing their individual views as well as the organizations that they represent. Don't forget, you can join the conversation via WhatsApp on 080-9597-5805. You can tweet at us at Nigeria Info FM. We are, of course, streaming live on Facebook, so you can go to facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. You can also find us on YouTube, youtube.com/Nigeria Info FM. So there's no reason for you not to be a part of the conversation. Multiple ways in which you can join us. So let's get straight into it. This morning in the studio with us, we have the deputy spokesperson of New Nigeria 2019, otherwise known as NN19, and she is Rosemary Ajuka. So it feels so strange to say Rosemary. Rosemary, good morning to you.
Good morning. It feels so strange to you. You're sitting on this side of this conversation.
On this side. Yeah. So if you do not know, she is once you're a part of the family, you will always be part of the family. She is a family member. Used to work with us at Cool FM with Manny in the morning, but now she has found herself on the other side of the microphone, and also maybe on the other side in politics as well.
Yeah, my seat.
But it's not the same thing. We're not the same anymore. And the other side of this conversation, sitting on the other side of me this morning, we have the chairman of the Modern Democratic Party, and his name is Bukunyi Olateru-Olagbegi. Good morning and welcome, Bukunyi.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
He seems so quiet compared to how this is how chairman, this is how they behave compared to the rest of us. It's Monday morning, we're hustling for the money. All right, so we will start this conversation again. It is Youth Leadership in Nigeria 2019 and beyond. I will start with Bukunyi. He's the chairman, again, as I said, the Modern Democratic Party. It's a very new, very young political party in the Nigerian space. And just for emphasis and I think for information, let's get a quick background on how the party came about and what the plan of the party is as we get into this conversation.
Okay, the Modern Democratic Party started as a political association of young people who are interested in the political space or who have been participating in the political space in various strides. And following the beginning of the Not Too Young to Run bill pursuit, it was foresight for us to know that what next after the passing of the bill. We need to provide a platform where the youngest, the brightest, the freshest, with discipline, skill, and will can have a playing field to run, as opposed to the other political parties where you have the problems of godfatherism and all of that. So that's how Modern Democratic Party started.
So how old exactly is the party?
The party got registered in January, so it's roughly a few months old. But it was
it was one of those who got the certification in December, correct? Part of the new.
But it took about 16-18 months to be registered.
Wow. So what were the hurdles? And for someone so young, getting into like the political system and actually attempting to start a party, some would say that there would be multiple opportunities for you to be dissuaded for going forward, and for any other young person or younger person in the grand scheme of things to attempt to be outside of the established political parties. What were some of the hurdles you faced?
There are quite a number of hurdles. Some we can say on air. However, the different processes that INEC put in place are very, very tedious. First of all, you have to register your name. You have to register your logo. That's like the first hurdle, and that's a really high one. You think it's easy, but it isn't. It can take you months and months. Next after that, you have to, haven't gotten those approved, you have to pay a registration fee of a sum of 1 million naira, which is
it can be steep.
Non-refundable, yeah. And then, having done that, you have to have your representation across the federation.
36 and FCT.
Yes, and then your offices across the nation, and then you go through the verification processes and all of that, and then you have to constitute a National Executive Council, which you have to fulfill federal character as well, and then it takes time.
And you've done all of that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That is definitely to be applauded. Now, Rosemary, let me come to you. Hearing his experience talking about setting up a party as a young person, a young Nigerian outside the established political order, what are the thoughts that come to your mind, especially given the fact that with New Nigeria in recent times, the organization you represent, there has been conversation about how to bridge the old and the new?
Yeah. Thank you, Tolu. I think it's important to. I have to applaud you and every other young person that is actually taking the jump to play in this crazy field that's called politics, especially in this part of the world. Look at all the hurdles that you had to jump through, and you were able to do it. I think that in itself should tell everyone that young people are ready to do this. And then definitely we must include technology in what we do. Lots of these processes that are such hurdles can really become simple if we use technology. All these verifications and getting your this and getting your that, all of that stuff can get a lot simpler if we deploy technology in all our processes, especially across, the government parastatals. Lots of our conversations at New Nigeria is to talk about because a lot of people, when they hear about not too young to run or young people want to come up and do something, they think it's a total disbandment or killing or discarding of the old. No, we talk a lot about how both of them can merge to lead us to where we need to go. You cannot throw the baby with the bathwater. And this is the conversation that we have. The process that we've put in place to vet political parties, for example, like MDP, it's not a bad process, but it needs to catch up with the 21st century. From what he says, it's a lot of hassle. It needs to catch up with the 21st century. It needs to get a bit more simplified. It needs to be a bit more streamlined so that it doesn't become about money or about connection. It is that when you have a vision for your country, you have a chance to do what they're trying to do.
Now, let me ask you, Bukunyi, why start a new political party? Why not join the old ones that are there? Many talk about the order and the system that's in place, how we found ourselves somehow a two-party state. But even with 64, 68 political parties as it is right now, many know that a lot of these parties are going to fall through the cracks. They may not get the adequate attention they deserve. Voters or even the electorate may not even look at them to even see what they're offering. So why not join the establishment, find a way to rise through those ranks instead of literally swimming against the tide? This tide is really against new parties in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, it is. For me, I think that for the established political parties, again, I also don't believe that you should just simply wish away the old. I think that you should find ways to work with them. However, what we have in this part of the world is there isn't even any grooming of any kind. We are in a situation of our country where technology is going to do most of the work. And the reality of Nigeria is the older generation is not as in touch with technology as we are. They're not as in touch with the new world order as we are. And in those established parties, you find people who are 70, 75-year-olds who refuse to step down or who have not even groomed or trained the person who they want to take over from them. So yes, you can have your legitimate aspirations in these established parties if you are pursuing your one agenda. I think that for me and for my people, we have a longer journey of bringing as many young people on board as possible, and the only way you can do that is to set up your own platform where everybody's voice is heard.
Rosemary, let's get to it. I know you don't like me for this, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
My goodness, we've done this privately, but she wants to.
No, it has to be part of the conversation.
We are not even privileged to that.
You know what? We talked about it last week about young people going to visit some former heads of state.
Oh, true.
And she was there. I've seen the pictures. So the question has to be, even though Bukunyi has said he himself doesn't believe that it's necessary to throw out all of the old to make room for the new, the group did catch some flack for visiting former President Goodluck Jonathan. I think you also visited Obasanjo. I think you also visited, was it Babangida as well? IBB as well. And there were a lot of questions why a young Nigerian organization that wants to have conversations around youth inclusiveness and moving beyond 2019 and youth leadership would go to these older men, to people who some would say are part of the reason Nigeria is in the current state it is in, whatever ramifications, and would sort of go back to the past. And last week we referenced former President Olusegun Obasanjo's comments, I think sometime last year, when he said that the young people in Nigeria were wishing all the old politicians dead, but that you would eventually need them because they have a lot to give. They still have a lot of mentoring to do and a lot of teaching to do. So you have taken the flack. Why go to these former leaders? Why? What is there that they can add to a conversation about youth inclusiveness and youth leadership beyond 2019?
Well, let's start with what the New Nigeria 2019 movement is about. New Nigeria 2019 movement is a coalition of young professionals. Now, for everybody that is a member of the group, every member of the New Nigeria movement is a young professional.
What is young?
So for now, our age is mostly between 18 and 35. Okay. That is the age range that we are at right now, as we speak. And lots of these people, you'll be surprised, as CEOs, and lots of them have done so well for themselves in their different endeavors. And if they're just concerned citizens that have come together to say, we don't like the way things are running, and we want to do something about it. We want to encourage more young people to run so that they can bring their expertise. If you're a young person and you're able to run a company and build it the way you've built it, lots of young people are doing that. You should be able to add some leadership to your society, to your community, and that's what NN19 is about. So we started out going to pay courtesy visits to former heads of states and leaders, and we still have more to go, by the way. I see you rolling your eyes. And this is because we understand the dynamics of leadership. I said before that you cannot throw away the baby in the bathwater. And this is Africa. Before you go on a journey, you go to your elders and you listen to what they have to say. I'd have to say, I've been, so I couldn't make it to Mina to see IBB, but I made it to Abeokuta and to Bayelsa. And I have to tell you, I had the same feeling. I had a talk with my chairman, like, oh, do we really want to do this though? But after those conversations, first with OBJ and then with GEJ, this is good luck. These former heads, they have a lot to say.
About what?
You will be surprised at how they're not even happy with themselves. There was a lot of conversation about the mistakes they've made and the ways that we can correct those mistakes. And what I like about NN19 is that we were very direct in our questions to them as to, to say that, look, we know what happened. We were not babies when these things happened, and we're still up till now facing the consequences for the actions that you took when you were in power. And we want to have this conversation. We're not combative. We're here to dialogue. And we want, the thing that is, what we have in common is that we want to see Nigeria get better. This is what we have in common. And this conversation is about that. And so you would be surprised to hear that they are not happy with themselves. They're not exactly, just lying around and just like, yeah, we wrecked it. That is great. They are quite disappointed that it turned out the way it turned out. And in the conversations that we had with them, there was a lot of, you guys shouldn't go this way.
So what lessons did you then take from them?
Well, I think one of the things that we learned was the people that you surround yourself with. So they said to us, any of you, because we have a lot of people in the group that are running for different positions in different parts of the country, and lots of these past leaders said to us, the people that you surround yourself with are so key, because you can't have your hand in every pie. And even though you seem like you're invincible at first, after a while you realize that you lose grip on a lot of things. And so you have to trust the people that you're surrounding yourself with to be able to handle those things when you're not there. And so they talk a lot about how you run your company as a young professional. You're not there if you're there 247, then you're not running a proper establishment.
They haven't succeeded.
Exactly. You have to put structures in place to make sure that when you're not there, everything runs smoothly. And there's a lot of conversation about the kinds of people that you carry along with you when you get into power. And that's number one. And number two, that I learned from what they said, especially OBJ and JG, is to not forget why you got there in the first place. because you can forget. He says, I remember it says, I see the fire in all of you, and the passion that you have for your country. When you open your mouth and you speak, we see that you're educated, you're well traveled, you've seen the world, and you want to bring it to Nigeria and change something. But when you do get into power, don't let it swallow you. Don't forget why you got there, because there will be these bureaucratic bottlenecks, and there will be people who will come and ask you for the money, blah blah blah, and this and that. But you mustn't forget why you got there. And it takes us back to the conversation about people you surround yourself with. So if you forget, let them remind you why we're here in the first place. So I don't think that, excuse me, I don't think that those conversations that it was out of place for us to go and have these conversations. Personally, as a person, to be honest, as one of the aggrieved young Nigerians, I needed to see these men face to face and to ask them. And thankfully, I'm the deputy spokesperson, so I could ask questions and I could say, look, I don't quite agree with what you did with this and that. Could you explain why you did that? And what was in your head when you were doing that? And
you told OBJ what was
oh, yes,
in
we
your head?
did. And he was very, to be honest, you would be surprised how very,
OBJ seems the type.
you would be surprised how very friendly.
Receptive.
Yeah, they were very receptive. I was surprised. I thought, oh, we have to bow down and worship. And no, it wasn't even like that. It was like, yeah, what do you have to say? And you were able to have that conversation. And for me, it was important to get a chance to speak exactly how we felt, to let them know that we feel like we are the generation that was robbed. We feel robbed. We feel like you made so many promises and we show up and nothing happens. And you have to explain how that happened. And now we want to take over from here. And we need to know what you did wrong so we don't go back there and repeat it.
You heard everything she said, and even though earlier you said, of course, you don't as well support necessarily throwing out all the old with the new, but where do you stand on this idea that there are still lessons or a potential for mentoring or leadership advice to be learned from the old guard? The old guard where many people laid the blame for the current state of Nigeria.
To a certain extent, I agree that we need to hear from them. We need to hear from them because they have the experience and they have somewhat the wisdom. But on the other hand, to a large extent, I think that they themselves, there's a lot of talking from them and there isn't a lot of action. If you really want to correct what you did wrong, if you really want to support young people, then you don't wait for them to come to you. You identify these people in whatever they're doing, the NN 2019 movement, and then give them your full support. And not just for support in terms of your mouth, support in terms of finances, support in terms of opening doors, support in terms of connection. So I think that, yes, we need their expertise, we need their wisdom, we need them as coaches, but we are the ones who have the energy to play. So yes, I think that there's a lot of talking from them. I've met quite a few of them as well, and I have relationships with them, and I still tell them there's a lot of talking. You're still talking. You're not, how have you supported me? How are you supporting me aside from your advice? So they're not doing enough as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, PK, I have a question. You said something about you need their money, you need their support. These are leaders that has been probably alleged looted our commonwealth. Now the country's money is in their pocket. Now if the young want to depend on them to bring in their money and their resources to support us and put us in power, now when we get there and they start to ask us for returns, how do you see, bringing them on board again as we move forward as youth in this country? Now, Rosemary said something very, very interesting. Now, they didn't like the fact that they failed. They didn't like the fact that the things they did and didn't do did not move the country forward. But yet, they are not answering the questions. What would you change that you couldn't change? You surrounded yourself with a lot of people, but then you couldn't change them to do the right thing. So it's like you said, it's still all about talks and talks. Do you think we really need these people, or we need them to give us, the advice, the financial support, the platform to get to where we're going?
Financial support is very dicey, so it's something that I would tread carefully on. In terms of advice and direction of things that they've done and have failed, yes, we need them standing behind us. So,
But aren't the failures plain to see
Exactly.
with
Very.
where Nigeria is?
They're
So
very-
do we still need them to tell us?
We know where they
Aren't the
failed.
failures plain to see enough?
this is what I think. I think that everybody has a part to play in the conversation, and I think that, like I said, they say they're offering themselves for advice and whatnot. Yeah, when we want them or when we need them, we can go and ask questions. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with somebody who has been in the chair where you are sitting right now to tell you, oh, I did this and it didn't work. Maybe you should try this. So if they're doing that with how do I put it? I don't even know if to use the word a clear mind or a sincerity of purpose. Yes. If they are not, then no. But the reality of it is politics in this part of the world is not always ideal. And while a lot of us complain and even throw stones at these guys, we are still complacent. We are still hiding behind our desks. We are still not participating or getting involved. So I think that yes, leadership. Yet, but at the same time, politics is not. Is not. If you're looking for saints or you're looking for angels, go to heaven. You sort of have to deal with the good, the bad, the ugly. So yes, I think I would, if I were in a chair where one of these people had sat before and I find myself at a crossroads, I will seek counsel, not necessarily because I'm going to do exactly what you said I should do, but I will weigh my options and then I'll take it from there.
I have to agree with Bukunyi on what
Bukunyi.
he's saying. You know what I mean? Because you don't take every advice you get. You just don't.
But I
This
don't
is-
go to everybody for advice.
This is why you do. Somebody says something to you, then you go back home, and then you think, well, that didn't make a lot of sense. But it was good to hear your opinion, and maybe I'll take it, maybe I won't. And then one of the biggest problems that we suffer in Nigeria, and what people say to us as a group is, lots of you are big boys are girls, your fathers are this, your mothers are that, don't travel. You guys
You're
are
not
big,
the
you're not
average.
feeling
Neither one of you
it.
is the average Nigerian youth.
Exactly.
I am, duh.
No,
I am the average. I am.
No.
I am as average as they come.
No, your definition of average versus what the actual definition of average is not. Neither one of you,
Wait.
none of us
You're not an average
in the
Nigerian.
studio
Yeah,
hang on.
is an average Nigerian
And that
youth.
for this conversation be the average. Can I just take that place right now?
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm waiting.
You know?
Land.
What I wanted to say was, for this conversation about to what extent should we involve the old, takes us back to the conversation about godfatherism.
Yes.
If you completely depend on the people who were there before you for a way to get there, then you have a problem of having godfathers on your hand. And when you have a godfather, we're back to square one. It's
Exactly.
like, this is what I want, this is how it's done, because I put it here, this is what you do. But that's not the conversation we're having at NN19. It's not a godfatherism type of conversation. We need to just kind of clear that out in the open. By the time people start giving you money, sponsoring your whatever, when you get into power, they'll ask for their money back.
So what platform then, Rosemary, is NN 2019?
NN19.
Exactly, NN19, creating, to educate the youth. For me, I think we have a bunch of youth that are completely disenchanted. There's apathy, there's frustration. They will rather go out than to stay in and be a part of a new Nigeria, as it were. So what platforms are we creating to educate, all of us coming back to believe in this entity and ready to give back all that we have to make it work?
You'd be surprised to learn about how many young Nigerians are returning from all over the world, just to come and see what they can do to contribute. When you travel, you'll be ashamed. When the things you hear about this country, shame will catch you. You want to come back and do something about it. And so, in as much as it looks like lots of people are, frustrated and trying to go through Libya to just get out anyhow, but it's also a lot of people are coming back. They want to do something about it. And even those who are here,
He's shaking his head like,
They're not coming back. The people I know are not coming back.
But the ones that came back are running away again.
And there are people here who are frustrated, and that frustration is pushing them to want to do something about it. And I like that you asked what platforms are in place. Because like Bukunyi said, there's lots of young people who might want to... Bukunyi, okay. There's people who want to play in the political space, but they can't seem to find themselves fitting into any party per se. Any of the...
Or the ones on ground because of how they run.
Establishment. Hence the need for new parties, really. Because young people need to find a place where they can feel like their voice is heard, what they're saying makes sense, people are running with them. What we are trying to do with New Nigeria, NN19, is to tell young people that you are important. We sometimes come at this conversation of leadership from the wrong perspective. There's nowhere in the world that God developed because the leaders were so nice. They were nice guys, so just kind of like
they gave up power,
or they are just sweet and kind men who just no. People demanded for that. People have to demand. As young people, we have to demand for the kind of leadership that we want.
So there's still going to be an element of fighting to get back our rights.
You have to put the word out. You have to get your PVC. That is the kind of demand we're making. When you take your PVC and you say, this is the kind of leader that I want, because I've read about him, I've followed his progress, I've seen what he's
antecedents.
Done, we know what he's about. This is the fight we are talking about here is your PVC. Because all this tweeting and Facebook, and it cannot do as much as... It cannot win elections. So you have to get your PVC. And you have to go out and vote. This is a big part of our conversation, is to get young people to get away from behind their computers and go out and get your PVC. And election day, don't tweet about it. Go and vote.
And be about it.
Who you want to just be about it. Put your money where your mouth is, Really do something actively. And that PVC is your power. And that's part of our conversation. That's what we're doing. Tell people, come out, run. Come out, vote. This is how we change things around here.
All right, so we're going to take a quick time out and go for a quick commercial break. But the conversation now gets to, are the youth ready? Now, the Not Too Young to Run bill is sitting on the president's desk waiting for his assent. But there are still people in this country, even young people themselves, that don't believe that Nigerian youth are ready, that we're too involved. Big Brother ends next week. You will find something else to obsess about. But that we find ourselves distracted, apathetic to the entire political situation. Are we truly ready to take up the reins of power, even though no one ever gives up power easily? We'll be back.
Hi, my name is Tunji Andrews, and I run the SME show on 99.3 Nigeria Info every Monday at 10 a.m. You see, every second Monday of the month, we have what we call the Pitch It Mondays, where if you're an entrepreneur, you have a business idea, but you need investment into your business, you're able to pitch it to investors who will be with me in the studio. You'll be able to pitch your ideas in 45 seconds or less. And if you can catch their attention, you get the critical investment you need into your business. So rehearse what you're going to say, make sure you're able to catch their attention in 45 seconds or less, you might get that investment into your business.
Hi guys, my name is Tolu Olateru-Olagbegi. I currently host Morning Crossfire. I'm here to tell you that you have to get your PVC. Your permanent voter's card is your power, and in your hand you hold the power to make any necessary change that you want in Nigeria. Please participate, because elections are not the end of democracy and governance. The highest office in the land is the office of the citizen. You and I are citizens of Nigeria. Get your PVC. Your PVC, your voice.
Hi, I'm Tunji Andrews, and this is 1,000 Naira note. To some people, this represents a meal, or a few bottles of beer. To other people, this is 4 units of Dangote cement shares, or 21 units of GT Bank stock.
This is Nigeria.
Or the stats of capital needed to start that pure business.
Good morning, Nigeria.
What do you want?
Wherever you are and whatever your needs might be, we have you covered on the Money, Business, and Economy Show on 99.3 Nigeria Info, weekday mornings at 9 a.m. Because it's not really the amount of money that matters. It's usually what you do with it. Cheers.
Let's talk. We know what's happening everywhere and every time. Giving you the latest happenings in Nigeria and around the world. The Breakfast News Digest, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, you are still tuned into the nation's #1 talk news and sports station. We are 99.3 Nigeria Info, and the conversation is still on youth leadership in Nigeria 2019 and beyond. And we still have our guest with us, Rosemary Ajuka. Again, she's the deputy spokesperson for the new Nigeria 2019 group, NN19. And we also have the chairman of the new modern... Okay, no, if I say that, you'll think it's part of their title. We also have the chairman, Modern Democratic Party, which is one of the new political parties approved by INEC in December that has kicked off activities in January, and he is Bukunyi Olateru-Olagbegi. Lady and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us. So, as I said before the break, let's talk about readiness. The president is hopefully going to sign the Not Too Young to Run bill. Many people do not see that there should be any particular issue that the presidency may have with the bill. But beyond that, there is still a lot of conversation as to whether or not Nigerian youth are ready to assume the mantle of leadership, even though, no, again, I say it with much emphasis, no one gives up power. But even Nigerian youth themselves don't believe that some youth are ready. Here on Twitter, Suki Samuel says this. He gave me like how many tweets? Okay, he said, religion and football imperialism have imprisoned Nigerian youth. You either find them in churches or mosques or find them in sports arena. Tell me how you can make Nigerian youth to participate in political process when religion have indoctrinated him and her to think politics is bad. Nigerian youth prefer to watch European football, talk about it, to sleep, and then rather than be involved in the political process that will help enlighten them. The religious aspect of it aside, this is a narrative that has continued to repeat itself time and time again. Rosemary, are Nigerian youth ready to take over, to use grit and might and will, and sometimes hopefully sheer number in order to change the political structure of things?
I believe that we are. I believe very strongly in this. I believe very, very strongly that Nigerian youths are ready. And I got this from the elections that we had in 2015. I'm not that old, by the way, but prior to 2015, growing up here in Nigeria, there was a sickening state of apathy. Everyone, nobody cared at all what happened. It was like we were completely disengaged from whatever happened in the polity. It just wasn't anybody's business. You just woke up in the morning and you tried to find food, and then you went about your business. Whatever happened with the polity didn't bother you. But starting from 2015, something changed. And from that place, I think people found their voices. And that voice includes the voice of young people. And even up to now, I was one of those who thought, well, this is just a flash in the pan. Maybe young people will, move away from this conversation. But up until now, young people are strongly following the conversation as to who their leaders are at every level in their community. Now, it might look like, oh, young people are doing this or doing that, but think about it for a moment yourself. Think about it for a moment. Just think in your head, count wherever you're listening from in the world. Just count how many young Nigerians that you know that are taking their lives in their own hands, that are saying, I'm not going to go around looking for a job. I'm going to start doing something for myself. I'm going to start doing this, or I'm going to start doing that to contribute my quota to society. That in itself is an indication that we've realized that whatever you want for yourself will not be given to you. Power is never given. It's always taken. And it's survival of the fittest. And we understand this. And Nigerian youths, this anger, this frustration, we're ready to channel that towards taking power back and doing for ourselves what no one can do for us. And so it might look, I think that a lot of people, you get distracted by what you see trending on Twitter and what's on Facebook, but you need to talk to people in the grassroots, and you can tell that people are ready to do this. Let me tell you something. If you see any young person that is a bit nonchalant, they don't have anything to stand behind. Do you know what I mean? The problem a lot of people have is not that they don't want to stand for anything. They just don't have who to stand behind. They haven't seen a candidate that is representative of what they feel is beneficial to them as young people. And so this lack of options is what is making people look a bit like maybe we're not ready. But we are. I believe very, very strongly that we are. And it's evident in the way that we are running our business and how much entrepreneurs have come up from what age what to age what. You see lots of young entrepreneurs doing so well for themselves. That in itself is a sign of leadership, and I think that we are ready.
All right, the same question to you, Bukunyi. Do you think Nigerian youth are ready? Many people think we're easily distracted, we're not involved in the political process, or everybody's either waiting for a godfather to simply just anoint them to the next level of the process rather than working on it.
First of all, I'd like to say that in a generation, not everybody is a leader. I think those who are ready to take leadership are ready. We have an advantage, which also is a disadvantage. The advantage is we are much more concerned about our economic empowerment as opposed to what goes on in politics. So because of that, young people are successful in spite of government. So they rather just face that. They are disenfranchised, like you said. So there's still a lot of inspiring to do and a lot of galvanizing to do. But one mistake that we shouldn't make is youth in itself alone is not a currency for power. The same way we have taken charge in our economic empowerment, it's the same way we need to take charge in terms of politics. So I think that, yes, we're ready to an extent, but there is a lot of inspiration and galvanizing to do, not even just from the candidate point of view, but also from the involvement point of view. Another thing I would like to mention is a problem I have, not even with Nigerians, is, yes, the strongest point of the conversation now is register to vote and get your PVC. But the problem for me that I see, and it's dangerous, is Nigerians wait every 4 years to demand the dividends of their democracy. We need to be strong on accountability. We need to hold the government accountable. Absolutely. You see how now the conversation is all about 2019, regardless of the fact that this present administration has a whole year before then. But we're ready to, you know what, you will soon go anyway. So we'll vote you out. I think it's more than that. I think that daily and daily and daily you must demand for the benefits of your democracy. Yes.
Fascinating. And you sort of preempted the next question I had, which is by voting for people because they're young. But I sort of want to rework that question, and this is it. If we have the numbers, this is the largest generation of young people around the world. It's the largest generation of young people even Nigeria has ever had. And Rosemary talked about a lack of candidates that connect with the young. If somebody comes out, and if we're looking at the roster of candidates that the person is up against, and they're not inspiring, they don't make you feel like 4 years down the line you will have gained anything, should we not then maybe use the sheer force of our numbers to help the young candidate get in? Because we've seen what the old people are capable of. At least let's try somebody young who hopefully is coming with fresh and new ideas, who can do that off of the force of our numbers. Isn't that something to consider, Rosemary?
I think first things first, and I always say this, is that what we must look at everyone's antecedents. Everybody who shows up on the face of anywhere, who says they want to do anything, they're coming from somewhere. If you even want to marry somebody, they still go to the village, go and ask questions. So I think it's important for us to go and ask questions. If someone shows up and says, I'd like to run for this office and do this and do that, we must go back and ask, where's he or she coming from? What has he or she done where they've been? What is their antecedents? You can't show up without any track record and just expect that because you are young. And by track record, it doesn't mean political track record. It could be track record in other industries.
Successful businesses.
You've done something somewhere that can speak for you, that can show that you're capable of leadership, you're capable of growing things, you're capable to hold tight during tough times.
You can be trusted.
You can be trusted with money because we have money in this country. So, I mean, it's important for us to have these conversations about people's abilities and capabilities. I'm not I'm not in the school of thought
that young is right.
Just because a person is, it's kind of like what happened with Hillary Clinton, you know, and then all of us were like, oh, she's a woman, let's vote for her. But it's not just. That was
not why I was going to vote. And posterity has proven me right. But let's move on.
Yeah, of course. But
we cried, though.
We did, yes. It was.
We cried. It was painful.
We held hands and we cried.
We cried when Hillary lost.
Yeah, but but what you learned is that these conversations are really about what a person, what kind of person bring to the table. Because guess what? If we sat here today and we said, oh, we have to put a young person in power. And we put a young person in power. And this young person is not capable of delivering what we thought they could deliver. In 4 years, we're back to square one.
Exactly.
And we don't want to go back to square one. We want to keep moving forward and keep moving the country to where it needs to go. So we must pay attention to the capabilities and abilities of these people and to their antecedents, to their track records. Very, very important. So if you're a young person and you're looking to run, you need to tidy up your house. You need to make sure that even if it's braid you're braiding, even if it's shoe you're sewing, whatever it is that you're doing, be excellent at it. Let people be able to say that you have proven yourself in something.
All right. Now, I have my reservation about if on the fact that maybe youths are ready or not. I think we're not. That's my opinion.
We are.
Okay. No, but are you expecting to see a completely youth-dominated environment in 2019 as the elections approach? Do you think with all this, with the advocacy and there's so much noise, publicity, education, political awareness that is being created today about youth in power, do you see a political space dominated by, influx of youth across all the platforms of elections?
Can I please tag a question onto that? Or do you also think because it is the popular conversation now, political parties might try to present younger, youthful candidates to also ride the wave as well? We'll start with Bukunyi.
I think that democracy has a very long way to go. I think that this whole conversation about young youth, modern, it's not just, it's beyond 2019. It's not just about 2019. It's beyond 2019. I believe that there will be a new generation of people for the legislative offices in various states and all of that. I believe that there may be 1 or 2 or 3 emergence of young people who are running for major seats. I'm optimistic towards it, but I don't expect it to come so easy. Yes, your second question was
about political parties trying to use the youth movement to present youth candidates, making you seem like they're aware.
The establishment is arrogant. I don't think that is the conversation, but I don't think so. I don't expect the APC to, at least not yet. I don't think so. I don't expect it.
Why am I calling Mercy? Because I think people were in my head. Rosemary.
Okay, so do we expect to see
an influx?
An influx, that would be great. But do we expect to see a political space that's completely saturated by young people? No, and that in itself is not even wise. I don't think that I don't think it's wise to say let's have only young people everywhere in every space. I don't think so. I think what we need to push for, it's an intergenerational conversation. That's what we need to have. We need to have a conversation where the people who are doing great, at whatever age they are, will stay and do the great things they're doing. But we need a lot more young people to put that influence. It's like, I like to talk about the entrepreneur part of things, because I'm an entrepreneur. I run a company, and you can't just come tomorrow and just sack everybody and just bring new guys. Then you have a problem on your hands. If every single person from your gate man to your COO is now fresh blood, then you have to start re-educating. You have to start to learn the processes. And it's a whole, how many years do you want to do that before you can get back to the business of making money? So I think that it's important for us to understand this intergenerational dialogue, which is kind of what we try to do at the New Nigeria 2019 group, is to say that both generations have something to offer. What we've seen in the past is that the older generations completely just disregards the younger generation, and this is not okay. And we know that you cannot disregard one generation over another. And so we say this to you guys, they need to work together in one accord to give us a Nigeria that we want. Now, as to whether the parties are going to start fielding young candidates, they've started now. Haven't you seen some people at funny ages who say that we are youth? I've seen them. They look. They have white baby, but they say
no, don't make reference to this one. This one that is not an age thing.
It's a swag thing.
Yeah, maybe I don't even know how it came by. And now the thing, Rosemary, well said. But my point is, with this awareness, with this consciousness, the involvement, I see. I mean, a youth-dominated environment, because everybody wants to probably be relevant and then come out to make it look like, okay, it's our time. I don't see a mixed, even if we're going to have a completely mixed generational environment in 2019 and maybe a little beyond, I am looking at the possibility. Okay, my question is this. I still see money politics play out in 2019, and the youth today, the young people today, are all about what is in it for them. And I think we're still going to approach the 2019 election with this mindset. What is in it for me? And because money is in it for everybody, then I see a very level of involvement of the young people going into politics in 2019 and a little beyond because of money. Have we been able to address this?
The money aspect of our political system.
Of our political system.
I mean, we are aware that politics in Nigeria is a serious money business.
Politics anywhere in the world.
Exactly, it's serious money business, and even more so Nigeria with the whole stomach infrastructure conversation and all things like that. But what we want to push for, and like he said, and I agree when he said that in every generation, it's not everyone that's a leader. You have a crop of leaders, and you have to kind of identify those people who are in this, because number one, personally, I'm going to speak for myself now. One of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing is that when I travel, which I do travel a lot, I'm usually ashamed. And I'm tired of being ashamed of my country. And so you do something about it, right?
Our leaders are well traveled. They're
not ashamed. Be rest assured. They're fine. Yes. But there's lots of young people, just like myself, who are not happy for the kind of conversations we have to have when we travel. And we want to change that. So I think that you need to identify those people. There's, of course, going to be people who are in it for the money or for whatever reason. But you need to identify the crop of leaders who have a passion for their country.
Who still have conscience.
Who still have a tiny little bit of conscience.
No, we need a lot of conscience. Nigeria does not need a tiny bit.
That lets you know that this is a place that you come from, and no matter where you go, no matter how many passports you have, you're still second class except in Nigeria. And so you need to, I think what we need to do as a people, to identify, and you can tell, it starts to show, when people come with ulterior motives, you can tell, because they cannot go the long distance. They cannot go through the hurdle. They can't take the pain that it takes to really drive that conversation home, that we need some level of patriotism in this country. It cannot always be about me or about you. It has to be about the collective.
Now, let me ask you guys, because part of this conversation at this end now is beyond 2019. It's 10 months to elections, and we all seem to have finally gotten caught up in how the election cycle. We were reading the newspapers this morning, and Punch was reporting that many people in the National Assembly have absconded because they are running for re-election, or they intend to run, and so they're finding it difficult to make a quorum. And we have found a situation where we're literally in campaign mode, whether people have announced their intentions or not. And we ourselves as youth, or whoever is interested in politics, will find themselves caught up in that same campaign mode in anticipation to the general elections. But beyond 2019, beyond casting the ballots, casting the votes and walking out of the polling units, what do the youth need to do? Because if we're not careful, Nigerians have a very short memory. We have even shorter political memories. We have very short attention spans. Once elections hit 2019, maybe some young people win and maybe some young people don't, but you can see a large relaxation behind either the Not Too Young to Run movement, or even young people continue to have conversations around leadership and inclusion beyond 2019. So how do we sustain these up to the election and even beyond? Bukunyi, let me start with you.
Speaking for myself, I don't think I'm going to give up. I think that we need unity. We need, you see, the interest of young people now, like the person on Twitter righteously said, entertainment, sports, religion. This is me reaching out to entertainers, this is me reaching out to sportsmen, this is me reaching out to religious leaders, both on both sides of the divide. You have the loudest voices now. So I think that, you see, the non-partisan or the staying away from partisan conversation is dangerous.
And it costs everybody.
It's why we are where we are. You hear a pastor or an imam say, oh, we don't talk politics in my church. We don't talk partisan politics in my church. I think that you are doing more harm than you think you are. You are doing more harm, because staying away from it and being complacent from it is where we are. So I think that the sustainability of this conversation relies on, yes, the few of us who are relentlessly doing what we are doing, but we do need more help. We do need more assistance from, again, the entertainers, the religious leaders, and the sportsmen.
Rosemary?
I told you what happened in 2015. It started something, and I think that fire is still burning, and movements like this tell you that there's people who really caught the fire and are running with it. And so beyond the elections that we have coming in 2019, what people need to do is to really pay attention. So we have a problem in this country where everyone's attention is at the center, presidency. You know, no one's paying attention to what the state governors are doing,
the local government,
to what the local government, if you have local government,
if it's not unified
exactly.
or under caretaker,
no one's paying attention to who is the senator representing your constituency. What is he doing? So I think these are the questions that we want to raise. We want people to start asking those questions. Like I said to you, no leader, look, read the history of the world. No developed country developed because the leaders were nice. No, it happened because people demanded for certain things to make their lives better. And so these demands we must start to make. Whoever comes into power, young or old, in 2019, young people must spearhead, and this is part of what we believe in at NN19, young people must spearhead the advocacy to push that people begin to show accountability. If you're in a position of leadership, you must show us what you're doing with the money, how if you're wasting it, what are you wasting it on? What are you doing? We need to ask these questions. Because if we don't ask these questions, fast forward to 2023, I'll be back in this studio, raising my voice like this.
You won't be talking to me.
And it doesn't change anything, you know? So we must change something by always asking the pertinent question across board, and not just look at the president, look at your local government chairman, look at your House of Reps representative, look at the senators, look at your governors. Governors are running almost like an autonomy. They're just having a field day. So we must keep asking these questions always.
All right, so quickly, Rosemary, if people want to find out more about the New Nigeria 2019 group, how can they do that?
Well, you can go to our website. It is www.newnigeria2019.org. And we're inviting all young professionals. We're very specific about this young professional stuff because we know the quality that people who are the ones pushing Nigeria's economy. We know the quality that they bring. And these are the people that we want to join this movement. So if you're a young professional and you're a concerned citizen, please join us. It's www.newnigeria2019.org.
And Bukunyi, if people want to find out more about the Modern Democratic Party, read the manifesto, find out what it is you're all about, how can they do that?
You can go on www.mdp.org.ng and you get all the information there.
All right, fantastic. Rosemary and Bukunyi, thank you so much for joining us for the conversation this morning. If you missed it, it is on Facebook, and you can also find it on YouTube as well. But up next is the headline news, and right after that is the Money, Business, and Economy Show with Tunji Andrews. It's a goodbye from us here on the Breakfast News Digest with Tolu and Dapo. We'll see you at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Nigeria Info.
Headline News on 99.3.